How's it going, guys? What of course you're going to be seeing today is a breakdown and review of Atheon's Epilogue, the auto rifle in Destiny. Of course, the only way you can get this weapon is by killing Atheon, who's the final boss in the Vault of Glass raid. It's random though, so you're not guaranteed to get it by killing him, and it took me I think 2 times running the raid to actually get it the first time. The stats I'm going to be using are from DestinyDB.com to perform a comprehensive review, so here we start. The gun itself starts with a 248 base damage and increases to 300 when you've completely maxed it out. To upgrade it, you're going to need Glimmer, weapon parts, and Ascendant Energy for sure. And I believe you'll probably need Spirit Bloom, but it may differ between your weapons, so don't particularly hold me to that statement on itself. That may differ. It may come from another planet that you'll have to go to get the upgrade material for. The fire rate is maxed out at 100%. It has an impact rating on the complete opposite side of the spectrum of 1%, a range of 18%, stability rating of 27, and a reload speed of 59. And lastly but not least, the magazine size is huge at 70. So base stats alone minus any perks that are going to change the weapon around, this thing is going to be one of those bullet hoses. The key to success for this weapon is going to be continually holding that trigger down and pumping out rounds as fast as you can, as accurate as you can, because that's the only way you're going to get kills. Your impact rating, or basically your damage per bullet, is going to be so low that you're going to need to land several shots to kill anything. So that's the key to the weapon. Hold the trigger down. In terms of PvP damage output, it hits for 11 damage on non-critical and 13 on headshots. With regard to the skill tree, because it's a raid weapon, every single Atheon's Epilogue in existence basically has no variation, so they're all the same. They all deal void damage as well from a primary auto rifle, which makes things a breeze for nightfalls where void is buffed. You have 3 clear options in terms of the sight. You have the red dot sight, the stock one, which it's the red dot's the stock one. A flexible sight, which improves your reload speed at a slight cost to range and stability, and a medium range scope, which slightly improves range at the cost of stability. But this one here, I promise you, is not going to be one you're going to be using much, and I'll explain why shortly. When you break down the skill tree, the most important perk is Persistence, which allows for improved accuracy with sustained fire, because like I said, you've got to hold down the trigger to be effective with this thing. The next 3 perks, which you'll have a choice over, affect reload speed, maximum ammo capacity, and reduced recoil. Which reduced recoil should be your choice here, because this thing without that upgrade has a tendency to kick. It's certainly mine. Because your first couple of shots, especially in the Crucible, tend to basically go wherever it wants. So the key is to holding the weapon down to increase that stability with Persistence, but also with that stability upgrade here, which reduced recoil as you might expect. It helps control that first shot recoil multiplier so you don't have big problems. It really does improve the gun. It's night and day. The next 2 are called Glass Half Full, which basically cause the bottom half of the magazine to dish out additional damage, and Oracle Disruptor, which deals bonus damage to oracles in return trip to the Vault of Glass. This is a really nice perk to have. And the last 5 perks are damage upgrades. With regard to my overall impression, you'll have to refer back to my statement about the sight earlier for the medium range sights. Remember how I told you weren't going to be using it? That's for a good reason. This weapon here is not meant for longer range or even longer medium range combat. The recoil is too pronounced and too unpredictable, especially on, like I said, the first shot recoil multiplier, and especially before you've upgraded the Persistence and Perfect Balance perks. After, it's still a little shaky. In PvE, especially for Nightfall and Weekly Strikes where void is buff, or when you're facing Vex enemies, like I said, you can get away with longer range encounters because of the extreme damage output. But in shorter range, this might actually be the best PvE weapon in the game, at least to me. It melts everything, and that's even without things being buffed. It makes return trips to the Vault of Glass easy because, like I was saying, Oracle Disruptor. And on top of that, because there's Vex enemies in the Vault of Glass, Vex are weak to buff. So it helps a lot there. The problems, of course, start to come a bit in PvP. You'll be outclassed by just about any weapon in medium range or longer with higher impact and stability, which is several of them, even rare varieties, such as Suros Regime, Shadow Price, Grim Citizen, Galahad E, and others. There's also an issue in very close range because you simply won't be able to put out enough damage in time to kill anyone with a good shotgun or fusion rifle. If you're in close range, you better switch weapons or you're probably going to die. The amount of bullets needed to kill is just it's a lot higher than any other auto rifles. So you should probably plan to retreat on enemies closing ground on you, or like I said, switch weapons. That said, this weapon is extremely effective in like close or like short to like not short range, but in between short and medium range. So that sort of tweener stage. And as long as you stay mobile and don't allow enemies to close ground on you, so you can completely just continually output damage onto him, you'll probably actually get a pretty good amount of entertainment watching their health bar drop in front of your very eyes as you prevent them from closing ground. So that's the most difficult part to describe is probably the range. Like I said, it's you don't want it in short range, but you don't want it past medium either. So it's sort of a niche weapon in terms of range. In terms of maximum effectiveness. If you can keep them out of shotgun range but not further away than that, then you're going to probably win many encounters. Overall, I use this weapon all the time in PvE and going to the Vault of Glass, and I actually find it extremely fun to use. It's a low damage per shot but extremely high fire rate weapon with, again, like I said in PvP, a sort of limited range, so you have to bear that in mind. And the key again is hold down the trigger, put out as many rounds as possible, even in situations where you're not so sure you might actually be able to hit the guy. Just hold the trigger down, especially when you combine it with the persistence perk later on. The void damage as a primary is the most appealing part of this weapon because it's basically a Dr. Nope clone, just add in void damage. But again, PvP, range specific, PvE, absolutely fantastic. It's quite fine if you don't mind playing to those specific ranges like I was saying though. But overall, I wouldn't consider using this weapon much for PvP, but I absolutely use it all the time in PvE. So that's my general assessment. Hope you enjoy. Have a good one.